I'm trying to run a business here. And I like to say, well, the reason that you're so busy is probably because you're not blogging. The typical scenario is if you've been in an organization any amount of time, you're probably a subject matter expert for whatever it is that you were hired for. And you've accumulated a tremendous amount of knowledge up here, but people can't access it unless they call you, email you, or otherwise talk to you. It's inaccessible. However, if you said, hey, 50 times a year I get asked the same set of questions, here's the links to the 5 documents that will answer that. Those people can self-service themselves. That's what Adam and I was talking about before. That self-service is so important. And forever after, people can go on their local portal or intranet and ask, hey, how to find the answer to this? And then somebody authoritative answers that. And they don't ever have to do that again. Yet they get credit for it. And that's the beauty of the social aspect. The blogs are tied directly to them. It's them. And someone wants another detail that isn't in there, they can then contact that person. But it's these sorts of scenarios that we're talking about. Enterprise 2.0. Andrew McAfee of Harvard famously wrote the MIT Sloan Management Review that said, hey, I'm starting to see this happen. We're seeing this social media cascading across the network into organizations, and they're starting to use it. Some are being very successful. In particular, we did 2 case studies that were very influential. One was a German investment bank. German businesses are very conservative, so this got a lot of people's attention. And we really define this. This is really important to understand what we're talking about. Emergent, free-form social applications. Blogs, wikis, sure, but it can also be social networking. It could be social messaging like Twitter. We see like Yammer is a great application, Yammer.com, for bringing the Twitter-like ecosystem, but with real business data. You want to be talking about your clients' private issues in Twitter, but with Yammer, you can get the Twitter experience inside the organization. And we'll do that. But each 3 of those words there are the pillars of what we're talking about. They're emergent. Because with the traditional challenge, we discovered what was wrong with the 1.0 world of doing things around media and communication was that it was too structured. Traditional software is far too structured. It doesn't fit the problem. It makes the problem fit in. It requires a great deal of work to change your businesses to adapt to it. Whereas all these social media and 2.0 tools are very emergent, very free-form. You can tackle almost any problem, and they'll allow the right structure and modes of communication and collaboration to form the networks to build internally between the different entities using them. And they're highly social. One thing I can tell you about network effects is that a researcher by the name of Reed did some very influential groundbreaking work in 2003, I think it was. It noted that the network effect of software that was social was 2 orders of magnitude higher than any other type of system. There was something fundamentally different when you plug people into the network, and they're recognizable as such, and you have these social relationships. The software gets much more use. You get much more value out of it. And there's a variety of reasons why that is. So when we talk about applying this 2.0 effect at work, we're talking about globally visible, persistent collaboration. A lot of people come up to me and say, well, we got instant messaging. We got social media now. Well, that's just that's point-to-point communication. It's not visible. All the information that travels across, that's like a phone call. All that information disappears when people hang up, and it's back up here instead of on the network. What we're talking about with social media is getting what we know, getting our relationship. So what's going on with the business onto the network. Globally visible, persistent collaboration. I see a lot of interest here right now when I talk to companies. It's not just amongst employees. They kind of have tools and kind of doing this. So they really want to bring Enterprise 2.0 to their business partners and even to selected customers and start working together on things. And that's where, right now, where the leading edge of the tools are, by the way. But the key message here is Enterprise 2.0 systems adapt to the environment rather than requiring the environment to adapt to it. It is a singular change, a 180-degree change from how we used to do a lot of things in software before. It puts workers into the central focus as contributors. I run into this situation all the time. One government organization I was talking with, an intelligence agency in DC, where I'm based out of, the challenge was they have all these intelligence analysts with these great filing cabinets packed with information that could really be of use. I'd be surprised how few computers are used in parts of the government. And so to get access to that information, you have to go and find the right analyst and then talk to them, letting you look at your file. And the challenge was, how do we get this globally visible, persistent? How do we get this data out of their hands and make it action to get it onto the network and do something exciting with it? And then we know who did what, whose files have what. We can ask them more questions and ask them their opinion. But of course, there's a lot of incentive not to do that. That's the reason for existence. So if all their data is out there, then what use are they? I had last year's Enterprise 2.0 conference in Boston. I had one of the head guys at Atlassian to make pretty much the top enterprise wiki product out there. I mean, of course, that's not all they make, which they made more Enterprise 2.0 tools. And they said, we've noticed something amazing about people who are using our product, is that those who are officially identified in the organization as being the expert versus those who are actually sharing their knowledge out there, the ones that are actually sharing their knowledge of the network become the de facto experts, the go-to people, versus the folks that have the official label. I'm the expert on so-and-so, but if they're not using these channels, they soon just get routed right around. The network routes around people who don't participate. That's actually what happens. You become the knowledge resource. People want your opinion. You become the influencer. It's very interesting how the Web 2.0 effect works. So, what are the benefits we're talking about? Probably many of you are familiar with it. Increased knowledge retention. We had one financial services firm. They didn't want to use these tools in an important part of the business, so they moved into the call center. Right? And you'd probably say, well, we're not going to get a lot of value out of that. They discovered that, well, these younger workers who are hired just for tax season, every year, financial services firms around the world hire all these workers for tax season. They answer all these questions. People get these ghastly forms, help them file their tax returns about their investments. They have no idea what to do. They call on the phone. What does this mean? What are the tax implications? And consistently answering this question is really, really important. But most of the information isn't in the official way. If you ask question A, answer the following. And question C, answer the following. A lot of those aren't there yet. We'll find someone who knows more about that particular situation and ask them. You can imagine how long it takes to answer a lot of those calls. But what happened was that the network began to learn. When someone, instead of taking, I actually personally saw one person had a 500-page Word document. That was the only thing they could have. They could find and search something. They would enter everything that they had learned, and they could then find it later on. Of course, that benefited no one else in the organization. So they used Wikis instead. They actually used Atlassian, and they opened it all up, and everyone could add notes to the bottom of any policy or procedure or whatever it is they wanted. And with search, you could find things. It was amazing what happened. That they actually started seeing productivity gains. People could find the information, answer the caller's question quickly, and you guessed it. Call times went down, customer service satisfaction went up. They were on hold while they tried to get together a whole bunch, find the experts who had the answer to your question. You didn't have to do that. The information is on the network. So increased knowledge retention. And I can go into that level of detail with all of these, but you get the idea. I like the less duplication of work is another really important one. I see this pattern now. Now that we're seeing these tools start to penetrate organizations pretty consistently, I've seen a lot of organizations saying, you guys are collecting that data over there? We're doing the same thing. Or your work, you do that as a business process? We're doing that too. Because they can actually see what's happening in the organization. And they can say, well, we combine efforts and reduce costs and all of that. Those are the types of scenarios that happen all the time when we see people starting to do these things. Why is it different? I still debate whether to leave this particular question in here. But the first was like, well, all right, you tell us, we already have tons